Hey, if you're looking around for someone to build you a shop, or maybe for DIY kits or whatever you're looking for, but you want to build a shop, barn, or a garage on your property, you probably got some questions, you might even have concerns. And in this video, we're going to address 7 of those questions so that you can confidently move forward and make the right decisions when you're deciding to purchase a shop, barn, or a garage. So when you are looking for a new shop or a barn or garage, you're going to be presented with 2 main options, maybe 3, and one of those is going to be pre-engineered steel buildings. Another option is going to be like steel quonsets, and the third option is going to be what we do most of, is wood frame. There's 2 styles of wood frame. You can do like the post and beam style, which is a lot of what we do, or you can do the stud wall. I hear it all the time when I'm on calls with people. They're like, well, it's going to come down to price. It's going to come down to price. So what you're probably wondering is it cheaper to build a steel building or is it cheaper to build a wood building? If you're building a massive, say a warehouse, steel is definitely the way to go. But if you're doing acreage shops, you're doing a barn for your animals, or you're just building a garage in town, then wood is an excellent choice. And it's great because you can do a lot of customization yourself down the road without specialty tools. If you're comparing an acreage shop out of wood or an acreage shop out of steel, there's very little price difference. If you're talking to local contractors about building a wood building and then you're looking online at the steel building kits, the steel building kits are going to look a lot cheaper. And the reason that is because all you're getting is the kit. That's just the metal, that's just the shell of the building. It's got to be all put together, so you've got a whole bunch of labor in there, and it doesn't have a foundation yet. And often we've even seen that they don't even send you engineered plans for the foundation. So now you got to hire an engineer, then apply for the permit, make sure you're not comparing just a kit that's going to show up on a pallet to a full build that's including all the labor, the foundation, the engineering, and all the work. You might be wondering how long it takes to build a building. Of course, that's super dependent on the size, but from actual booking a project to completion on just an average garage or like an acreage shop, you're going to be looking at around 6 to 8 months. And 4 months of that time at a minimum is going to be used up in engineering, permit application, and then once the permit's approved, we guarantee a start within 6 weeks. You're going to be looking about 6 to 8 months from the time you book to the time it's complete and fully usable. What's the most expensive part of the build? 100%, no contest, the labor costs the most. The problem is that in construction, for every 7 guys that retire, there's only 1 that comes in. So labor is just getting harder and harder to find. Good labor is harder and harder to find. There's not as many young guys. They're just going into cryptos or something. If you build it yourself, you got the skills to do it, and you've got time and your time's worth nothing, you can build a shop for like way less than hiring a contractor to do it. But if your time's valuable, spend your time doing the stuff that makes you a bunch of money and hire someone to do it, it is the labor that's going to be the most expensive part. Do I need a geotech for my building? So a geotech is a geotechnical engineer. What they do is they engineer the ground. So they'll do tests and they'll analyze the ground. They'll say, hey, this ground's going to sink, or this slope's going to slide, or most of the projects we do, we don't need a geotech. There are instances where you do. We have one, for example, that we're working on that's got a steep slope above it, a steep slope below it. And so they had to bring a geotech in. They actually needed 2 geotechs. A lot of the sites, like the flat sites and stuff, you're not going to need a geotech for. Another spot where you might need a geotech is if you run into bedrock and you don't want to go through the bedrock, you want to actually put your foundation on top of the bedrock, then you might need a geotech to take a look at that. Chances are you're not going to need one if you're on a level site in a, just a standard area in the valley bottom. But if you are on a hill with some good side slopes, possibility you'll need a geotech. How do you mount shelves in your building? If we put, like a lot of times we put this metal cladding like we got right here on the interior. So there's actually strapping behind there that's solid that you can attach to. So what you could do, these are 3/4 inch ribs. What I would do if I had metal cladding all the way down is to just put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood right over top, set it against the ribs, fasten into there. Now you have a nice flat mounting area to mount your shelves. The other option is leave the bottom 8 feet or whatever and put plywood on that bottom 8 feet so that you have a nice solid flat mounting area. But yeah, you can definitely mount shelves in there no matter how you decide to finish the inside. What size overhead door is the standard size, or what size overhead door should I put in my shop? Again, that totally depends on what you're putting in it. But on an acreage shop, what I always recommend is going with a 14 by 14 overhead door. And so a 14-foot door is going to fit anything that's road legal. So let's say you got a building here, 14 by 14 overhead door. You're going to need a 16 14-foot ceiling. So this is the 14-foot door. You're gonna need a 16-foot ceiling because we need 2 feet here. Now we can do a lower clearance one and you can squeak that down a little bit if you have to, but ideally we want 2 feet in between the top of the overhead door and the top of the ceiling. You're gonna have like your overhead door operator, and you're gonna have like your springs in here and the tracks and everything, right? So that's what that 2 feet's for, is you're gonna need the room for that stuff. In a garage, standard garage door size is like 8-foot garage door. So there's a couple options you can do. You could do like, say, double car garage. What you could do is you could put 2 8-foot doors in, or what you could do, and I would recommend in a double garage, is to do 16 by 8. That way you can still bring in 2 vehicles, but you can also bring stuff in and you don't have this middle post in the way, right? So that's what I'd recommend in a garage. But the height of 8 feet is a little low. Like a lot of F350s and stuff, 1-ton trucks aren't gonna fit through a 8-foot door. So I would recommend a 10-foot door. Pretty much in any garage is to do a 10-foot door. And 10 by 10 is a nice size if you just have a single car garage. And if it's a double, do something like that where it's a bit wider, like a 20 by 10 or a 16 by 10. Can I insulate my shop later? Yes, you definitely can insulate it later. That's one of the benefits of the buildings we build, is we can put the whole shell up for you. You could use it for like 3 or 4 years. We actually had a guy do that. And then we could insulate it. You could insulate it later, or you could call us back to insulate it later. So it's definitely an option. So if you want to just do the bare minimum and get a shell up and pick away at the insulation, you can do it, or you can wait a few years and do the insulation later.